Okay, in the music business, there are definitely a lot of bands that are sort of given a bad rap. Now, reputation is not necessarily important in music. I'm sure bands aren't necessarily sitting around worried about what everybody thinks about them or what everybody thinks that they should actually do. Probably a little bit more concerned with either music or, wanking. I don't know. I don't know what bands do. That's why I'm on this side of the camera and not, on the side that has the guitar in its hand. But either way, you can definitely tell that there are some things that make reputation extremely important. For example, Lost Prophets no doubt had a lot more fans before people found out that Ian Watkins was a huge steaming pile of criminal shit. Still, some of the reasons that have been sort of dreamed up for bands getting bad reputation are extremely comical and kind of really, really stupid. So, let's take a look at a couple of those, shall we? Here are 10 bands that are given a bad rap. I'm coverkillernation, and we're going to start with number 10. Number 10 is Dream Theater, who get a bad reputation for being Dream Theater. That's right. This is one of a couple of bands that get a bad reputation simply because of who they are, and actually it's more so for being a progressive band as opposed to just simply being Dream Theater. Now, of course, the memes are out there, Meat Theater, that speak about the length of their songs, the wackery of their solos, the fact that they will go on and on and on for an elongated period of time regarding their songs, and that just makes it absolutely boring. That's, of course, one of the biggest causes of bad reputation. But then, of course, there was the whole Mike Mangini, Mike Portnoy saga that took place. Mostly the Mike Portnoy saga, considering he left the band, wanted to come back, wasn't allowed to come back, and it was a whole big thing that took place over a couple of, years, or maybe just a couple of months, whatever it was. And it caused the fans to be in a bit of an uproar. There was certainly a division. Should we move on without Mike or not? And the fact that they decided to move on without Mike, only to get another Mike, well, you can kind of see where I'm going with this. Number 9 is Slayer, who gets a bad reputation because of their fan base. That's right, sometimes what happens to a band to really cause their reputation to go down, they had nothing to do with, and we mentioned that at the onset. But Slayer is one of the biggest examples as to why having a toxic fan base can sometimes be a really bad thing. Now, Slayer fans are dedicated, and you have to give them a lot of credit for that, even though some of the things that they say or do may seem absolutely ridiculous. This is a Slayer town really comes to mind. But that same fan base is an easy turn-off period in order for folks to try to maybe get into the band for the first time, or trying to have a discussion as simply a casual fan instead of a die-hard dedicated Slayer fan. It's something where that deviation between your love for Slayer or your gratitude for Slayer, how humbled that you are by Slayer by comparison to theirs, is going to cause a lot of some disparaging remarks, not to mention some four-letter words sort of lashed out in different directions. And of course you see that a lot on social media. Why do you see that mostly on social media? Because if you meet these people in person, the only way they're going to say the things that they say on social media is if they're drunk. And really, if you see them outside of public, just give it time. Number 8 is Nickelback, for being Nickelback. Now, unlike Dream Theater, who got it for being a progressive metal band, Nickelback has literally gotten it for being Nickelback, for being the band that they've always been. Now, granted, there are some that will say that Nickelback caused this and brought this upon themselves by essentially being a parody of themselves with each and every album, with everything sounding the same, but come on, they have a bad reputation simply because they're Nickelback. I don't have to say anything else. Number 7 is Winter Sun, and this is because of delays, and because, delays, and delays, and delays. The reputation on the delays for Time Part 1 and et al. Is certainly one of the biggest sources of criticism and bad reputation whenever it comes to the Winter Sun project. This is something that took a brand new turn in the past couple of years, considering the GoFundMe, the crowdfunding, or whatever it was, not to mention also the talks about hot tubs and all sorts of different weird things. Losing things or things constantly being erased, starting from scratch over and over again. It's some of those things where after you hear all this, you just want to go, artists. And that's exactly how it feels. So Winter Sun essentially gave themselves bad reputation by being Winter Sun, and by their being Winter Sun and delays, and Winter Sun and delays. Number 6 is Avenged Sevenfold, because of the fan base, and also because of some inconsistent music. Now, any band that's going to have huge amounts of fans are going to have a couple that are extremely toxic, as we talked about with Slayer. However, with Avenged Sevenfold, this was more so of a youth movement, and of course, youths, especially teenagers, have the ability to be a bit irritating and a bit annoying about things. Unless, of course, you are one, then, well, you are irritating, so shut up. However, this is also something where the band has gone through a lot of different consistency issues throughout their career, where their sound has been a little bit different on every album. And then whenever you have all of that difference, where everything sort of seems to be going in one direction or the next, and you lay a goose egg like their self-titled album, the reputation now becomes that they're a group that sometimes will just follow sort of what fits, either that or sometimes will follow what seems like it would make an easy buck. As one of the big-time criticisms of Avenged Sevenfold's self-titled album was the fact that it sounded way too much like Metallica, Iron Maiden, Megadeth, and other bands, to the point where it was almost near verbatim with some of the riffage. Either way, this is a band that has gotten a lot of criticism throughout the years, whether it's for their image or their fan base, so reputation certainly is not something that they've thought about a lot, especially considering they put out the excellent The Stage just a couple years ago, which totally threw everything through a massive 180. Number 5 is Alice in Chains for replacing Lane Staley. This one is kind of silly, but I can understand at the root why people are upset. Now, I love William Duvall as a vocalist for Alice in Chains. I love this new version. I love the fact that a band that I thought was dead, that I absolutely loved, has gotten new life, and the material has certainly been, in my opinion at least, very, very good. However, replacing Lane Staley was going to be no easy venture, so I'm sure whenever Jerry Cantrell proposed this, there was a lot of dumbfounded looks around the room of, Alice in Chains' revival membership. However, this was one where they had to pick someone who was right for the job, and William Duvall certainly has that fit. Then it became the proportion of how they were able to go about things. So, for example, Black Gives Way to Blue had a lot of contributions from Cantrell, whereas The Devil Put Dinosaurs Here had a little bit more unity, and this next one will probably have even more unity among the band as to contribution. However, fans didn't want to see a replacement for Lane. They thought this was just a cash grab for Jerry to get a lot more money because his solo project wasn't necessarily doing all of that well, which was only halfway true. His solo project was doing pretty decently, but one way or another, they criticized him heavily for that, and now there are a lot of former Alice in Chains fans that are not even willing to listen to the band's new material. Number 4 is Slipknot, and this is for having 9 members. Yeah, something as simple as the number of members of a band, and I'm sadly sort of partially responsible for this, is a reason why they've gotten bad reputation, and it's a reason why they've gotten criticism. 9 members to a band makes it seem like there should be a lot more output than what you actually get. That was one of the lines that was said, and it was something that has been a big-time reason why this band got criticized over the course of the many, many years of their career, and even recently as well. However, this was also something where Slipknot got a lot of flack for the quality of their music, or the fact that they were part of the new metal scene where it seemed like it could be done with 3 people as opposed to 9. And in fact, some bands were doing it with 3 people as opposed to 9. That sounded oddly sexual. One way or another, this is a group that got a lot of shit, not only for the different things that their band did or did not do, but then they also got a lot of flack because Corey Taylor's in their band. And Corey Taylor is like a microphone magnet, or at least he was a couple of years back. Corey was getting his opinions taken on just about everything, and it almost made you want to say, hey, there's 8 other fuckers over there. Why don't you talk to one of them? Let's get a brand new opinion, blabbermouth. Number 3 is Opeth for changing their sound. Now, Opeth definitely did something that few bands are sort of willing to do on a long-term scale basis, and that was completely change their sound. They went from the progressive death metal style over to the prog rock style, and it was something that was sort of very slowly but surely happening throughout the 2000s. It's almost like a slow build to a heel turn or a slow build to a face turn in wrestling, where you start to hear and see the seeds planted a long time before it actually happens. That way, whenever it happens, you go crazy for it in the appropriate way. You either boo or you cheer. Now, whenever Opeth decided that they were going to do a complete prog rock album that wasn't named Damnation, everybody hoped that it was just another one-off. Whenever they announced that this is the sound that they were taking the band, the brand new direction, that's whenever the reputation started to take a dent. They took a major dent in reputation with these albums, with people still going to shows and clamoring for the old death metal vocals. And even though Mike is willing to give them a couple of tracks that feature those vocals, such as Demon of the Fall, they want this on the records. They want this to be what Opeth is. They want to control what Opeth's identity is, as opposed to the band controlling what their identity is. Does that make them silly? No, it just makes them obsessed fans that prefer one sound to another. But what they should do is just learn to accept that this is who Opeth is now, and like the songs from the new records that they find to be tolerable. And trust me, it can't be that they all suck. There's got to be at least one that you like. Number 2 is the Insane Clown Posse, and this is one for being essentially the Insane Clown Posse. Strangely enough, this one's really, really fucking stupid. This is one that should also say that it was because of the fan base, because the fan base all seems like to be a bunch of hillbilly trash. Now, I know that that's not true. I have done a lot of satire on this group, and I know that a lot of those folks are willing to take things with a good chuckle and take things in stride. And whenever you take a look at ICP as people, outside of ICP the musicians, you realize that they are actually dudes that have pretty big hearts considering the charity that they have done. However, there are not a lot of other folks, or there's not the dedication in a lot of people these days to do all this research and find out that ICP actually are not total wastes of life. And of course, if you're an Eminem fan, chances are you hate ICP instantly, simply because there was a beef between ICP and Eminem. People hate people for really stupid reasons. This is the reason why school shootings happen. But this is a band, or this is a group, that throughout their history has certainly captivated. They've done things from the ground up. They are truly an independent success, and as such, do deserve a little bit of respect, but it's not always granted, and their reputation is often slaughtered by their legion of fans, who many people think are actually a cult. And that brings us to number 1, which is Metallica, who is essentially given a bad reputation because of 2 bad albums, and also because of Napster. Napster bad. That's all you have to say about that. That was something that caused Metallica to take a little hit in the chin. Some people would say that, replacing Cliff Burton is a nice old hit in the chin, replacing Jason Newsted, hit in the chin. Nah. What happens whenever you are the biggest band in the world? You're going to be criticized for every move that you make, whether it's good or it's bad. Hardwired to Self-Destruct is a pretty decent album. Of course, there's going to be a lot of people that come in and say, well, actually, it sucks considering this is the same band that made Saint Anger and Lulu. And for once, it wasn't me that said that. I actually kind of dug the album. I thought it was pretty decent. Yeah, but Lulu and Saint Anger, that's all you really need. You have 2 big elements to fuel the fire of dissent, and considering it came in separate decades, it gave a fresh take on hating Metallica whenever they were released, and of course, it was for different reasons. Saint Anger was because of the raw sound of the album that nobody could really get behind aside from a sparse few, while Lulu was the collaboration with Lou Reed that seemed doomed from the start and was extremely difficult to get through. But then you add in the Napster bad philosophy, and you add in that whole situation, you add in the fact that now downloading music is probably more commonplace than ever, and there's very little that artists can do about it. Instead of hopefully they're downloading it from iTunes or listening to it on Spotify where it counts towards our revenue. Yeah, you can definitely understand why Metallica reacted the way that they did. They saw the source of not only their livelihood, but the livelihood of others kind of going up in smoke with this. So, of course, the reputation went down a couple of spots considering Metallica was the biggest heavy metal band in the world, but in reality, they weren't just thinking about Metallica, the greatest, and biggest heavy metal band in the world. They were thinking about everybody else. They were thinking about all the lessers that were, not going to be able to ever reach their heights, and not just on a musical or a sales scale, but also on a monetary scale. They were looking to have make sure that artists get paid. But of course, that's not something that a lot of people care about this day and age. And they didn't care about it anymore back then. They thought that they instantly got rich for other different reasons. Metallica's reputation went to shit, and well, looking at recent photos and listening to recent material, I don't think Metallica much cares. So, with all of these bands, you can continue your bad reputation, you can continue to say the things that you say, and you can continue to say that you're going to do the things that you do. I don't even know where I was going with that. So, I will just simply say that you agree with this list. Are there others that you would add? I'm CoverKillerNation, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Take care.